Hello.
Hey Ryan.
Hey, how's it going, Jeff?
Good, good. How are you doing?
Doing great. I'm doing great. I'm excited about this conversation. I'm excited to kind of talk about the NIL side of college sports.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah, sweet. Is there any chance you could turn your mic up a little bit?
Yeah. How do I do that? Actually, I'll go grab a microphone. Is that easier?
Yeah, I mean, that could work too if you
Okay,
want.
I'll be right back. Is that better?
Oh, wait, yeah, say something.
I can't hear you. Okay. Mhm.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. All right, perfect. All right, yeah, that's better. All right, yeah, man, I'm excited to share your journey and kind of share what you've been got going on. A little background on myself. My name is Ryan Schaper, recent graduate of University of Kansas. Was in our athletic department for a little bit. First as a game day operations and just kind of doing stuff on game day for them and being in the donor rooms advising and greeting the donors that came in. But then I got into our development department for as an intern. So I was there 8 to 5 every day, kind of just doing the little stuff for them, donor relations side, kind of event planning for like alumni events and like 75th annual swim team event. I think was one of them. We also had like a first pitch banquet for the baseball team prior to the season. So just stuff to get money through the door and to get people to donate back, which was really cool to see and something I want to continue to do. And recently just accepted a job back at KU for Legends, the ticketing ticketing group that does our ticketing and fundraising. So I'm doing ticketing for them, and then yeah, so I start in a couple weeks. But prior or in between this time of like graduation in May to like right about now, I was trying to think of ways to like connect and network and kind of get my name out there and kind of share stories and get advice from other people just to get some guidance and advice. And so I thought about doing this kind of podcast and kind of just reaching out to people that are in the field, different people alike. I've talked to associate athletic directors. I've talked to like recruiters. I've talked to student athletes. I'm just trying to get a feel for the entire landscape of college sports. You're the first person in compliance slash like NIL. So I'm really interested in this conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
That's great. And congrats on your job opportunity. That's fun. It's a great
Thank you.
school, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll jump into what you got going on. You're the founder of JP Sports, which is an NIL and marketing agent. Kind of talk about how that came about and what it is.
Yeah. So as you talked about, it's an agency for NIL and marketing, right? So we have high school and college athletes as our clients, right? And so we help them to find deals and to get all the terms and everything done. We help with brand strategy and content strategy, all that jazz. And then also I you know also try to help them get prepared for after college also, right? Like with job interviews or networking, those type of things as well, right? To try to have this college time be a launch pad for their career. So it's not just the deals. Obviously, those are big, but those are all part of a bigger plan, if that makes sense. And how it kind of came to be is I saw there was an opportunity, and the timing was correct. And so I said, well, I have a background in advertising, I have a background in law, and I have some compliance experience. So I thought that was a pretty good trio, to be an agent
Mhm.
and to hop into an agent's C spots. And so I did, and here we are.
Yeah, yeah, that is a great trio to have, especially for compliance and law. So understanding these kind of negotiations and contracts. But what's it look like when you reach out or you get an inquiry about wanting to join JP Sports?
Yeah, no, it's great. I love those. So if anyone wants to Yeah, that's great. Um, yeah, basically, it's just having a chat, right? Like I talk, to the athletes and say, hey, like, what are your goals and what's your story, and then I tell them kind of my background and who I am, and then we see if we're a good fit. I tell them, all the stuff I just told you about who we are and the value that we offer, and then we just say, okay, let's talk about it. I get them a contract over to, like, chew on and talk to their parents about or whatever, and then if they want to hop in, they hop in, and off we go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's very interesting. Obviously with it being super new and NIL and contracts, and now that the house settlements kind of through us, and it's a lot easier to kind of navigate into this NIL world. But when you coach these student athletes, and you're walking them through the contract and stuff. What does that look like? What's the contract look like? And is it like per year? Is it monthly? Or what's kind of the details of a contract?
So, so our contract agreement, it starts at 6 months, and then after that we just you know go again for that same term as long as they want to do it, right? And then it has all the terms and things, obviously, of, like, how long and how I get paid and how they can terminate, and the services I provide, and all that jazz. So all the all the key terms, right? Like, the contract has been you know vetted by an attorney, right? So I'm not just tossing stuff in there and being like, oh, this sounds good, right? Or
Yeah.
so it's got all the terms, and, like, state by state, there's different things that they have in there. Like, there's different disclosures and things, and so state by state and athlete by athlete, right? Those things change. Overall, it's just kind of the basic contract terms of, like, who, what, where, when, and why, and all that jazz.
hmm Yeah, you mentioned states are different. Obviously, more states are lenient, and more states are a little strict on like these NIL going on as it is state by state. What are some tougher states to deal with, and what does that look like if you are dealing with someone from that state?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest challenge, like, most state laws are pretty similar. The challenge is that there's those that some states want you to register as an athlete agent, and there's those that don't, right? And so there's different costs, right? Because those costs can be as high as, like, 1,500, I think, is the highest, and then there's states that ask you to get some type of insurance, right? And so that's a burden at times. And then there's states that say, hey, you don't have to re- 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 register, as long as you're just a good actor, then we'll trust you or whatever, right? So there's a pretty wide spectrum. So I always check when I'm talking to somebody that, hey, am I registered in your state? If I'm not, then I'll decide to do it or not. And if I can't, or if I don't think it's a good opportunity, then I'll hand it off to a different agent or whatever. But yeah, just trying to be as compliant as I can. That's kind of my background, and I think all agents, right, should register in those states that they have to. So it's just trying to stay on the up and up, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. You started this in, I believe, February of this year, 2025. What's that process? What's the growth look like since then? And as it, I was maybe just an idea is now coming into life. And how many representatives do you have, or how many people are you representing?
Yeah. So so started February, and I had never started a your business before, but I had some obviously the law and all that type of background. So I had some things, right, like how to start an LLC and get registered and have all the I's dotted and T's crossed and all that jazz. So that just takes the normal type of time, right? You got to do all the paperwork and the documents and get all your stuff in a row. So that was fine. Um, you, but I was able to hop in pretty quickly and just kind of jump in because I knew a lot of people in the industry and just who to talk to, and I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and so there was a lot of contacts there that I could start it to. So as far as starting out, it started pretty quickly and pretty easily, right? So that was good. And thankfully, there has been growth. Not like huge, giant, 100 client type of growth, but we have steady growth, right? I currently have two track athletes, and then I have a couple of other athletes that I'm talking to today, actually, and yesterday that hopefully will be signed by the end of the week. So um, I I try to find ideal clients. I'm not going for quantity as much as quality. I want to get like a handful of like ideal clients, and then over deliver for them. And then after that, we'll talk about expanding or whatever. But that's kind of my short term.
Yeah, you got to make sure that they're a good fit as long as, or as well as them being a good fit for you. So that makes perfect sense. You mentioned you give them like the full service experience when they do sign. What does that look like? Is it like like photo shoots? Is it like advertisement for them and their brand, or what do you offer them when you give them that full service experience?
Yes, so it's basically that depends on the athletes, right?
Hmm.
There's those who have not the largest of followings, and that's okay. And so for them, it might be more about just trying to build that up. So there's a lot of talk about like, okay, who do you want to work with? What kind of content do you want to do? There's a lot of resources out there, right? There's like a creator camp and athlete con and all these things, and so I try to connect them with those that have those type of skills and those type of knowledge also. So yeah, it just comes down to, okay, who are they and what do they want to do? And so if that's a photo shoot, then we're going to get that going. If it's just, hey, go get all the deals you can, and we'll just have them, tossed up against a wall, and I'll choose them. That's fine too. If it's about, hey, I don't, care about, deals. I just want to kind of get, prepared for life after college. Then that's fine too, because I have a lot of experience there. So it's very individualized, case by case, and we just try to say, okay, what do you want? What are your goals? Let's talk about it. Let's brainstorm, and then we go from there.
Yeah, so when you are going after these, if they do offer or if they do ask for brands and they want to go get some brands that you can acquire, what does that conversation look like when you're negotiating? And like, is it local? Is it just like any store, or who are the brands that they kind of go after, and how does that negotiation go down?
Yeah, so I always try to start local because I think that's a good start because you already have a community there, either in your hometown or at the school, that area. So start there, and then branch out. And I have a I have a great partner in Out to Win that does a lot of the all the background data and like says, okay, here's who the brands are working with, and here's the kind of content that they like, and here's the type of athletes that they're trying to find. So there's a lot of insights there that educate me. But yeah, you start local and then you expand. Obviously, it's probably harder to get big national brands if you don't have a huge engagement or huge following. So you got to start somewhere, but you start where you currently are at, and then I go out and I try to expand that sphere, right? So I talk to to brands. I do a lot of talking to them on LinkedIn, and say, I have this athlete. They love your product. They're already brand loyal. Let's talk about it. And so it's just, yeah, it's just a lot of kind of hitting the digital pavement, if you will, and then just kind of talking to people, and you're just trying to build those relationships over time, and then as those grow, then you hit. So
Yeah, yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, I kind of wanted to know, like you get into your background and stuff, how you got here, and obviously have had great experiences, and you have a law degree, and then obviously experiences at NCAA and a couple universities. But kind of go through your background and get us to the point where we are right now.
Yeah. So I was going to be a sports journalist. I thought that was a pretty cool job, just to go to games and then to just type up a story about it. So that was kind of my starting path in undergrad, and then I kind of pivoted there to advertising because the writing was a bit more creative, and that's what I was trying to do. And then after that, I was like, well, I don't want to necessarily go into advertising. So how do I get into like a sports team? And I thought, well, I could like either go to like law school and be an attorney, or go to medical school, do the trainer thing. And I said I would like to go to law school instead. So I
Yeah.
did that, and my first plan was to go into it and be the next general counsel of whoever. Um, but as I got into law school and started talking to people in the college um, industry, I thought, well, you know what, that compliance is kind of cool, and so I tried that out my first summer of law school, and I thought, this is cool stuff, and if I enjoyed it as a volunteer, then I would enjoy it, being paid. So that was my next pivot, is to go into compliance, and then yeah, I was at Old Dominion to start, and then I went to Furman, and then I went to Notre Dame, and then it was time to kind of start on my own. So just kind of had a couple pivots in there, but those were helpful, and they were good choices, and so they've helped to get here.
Yeah, yeah, no. So break down what kind of compliance is for someone that wouldn't know, and like what all you do for kind of the rules and regulations.
Yeah, so compliance, right? Basically is just helping athletes and coaches and staff to stay compliant and to keep the rules of the NCAA or the school or the state. And so it's a lot of education. It's a lot of trying to kind of condense bylaws and excuse me, policies, those type of things, and trying to just kind of condense them down to the smallest, most easily dig- digestible answer. And so it's a challenge when coaches or parents or athletes, right, are saying, "Hey, can we do this?" And you're like, "Well, no, we can't, because it's a Tuesday, and the bylaw says on a Tuesday you can only do this," right? So there's a lot of like details and a lot of kind of arbitrary how come this is a rule, right? But it's as a as a compliance officer, it's your job to kind of know that, right? Because students are trying to go to school and play their sport, and coaches are trying to go out and get um, athletes to come in and trying to coach their sport, so that they don't have time to go into the manual and have all these rules.
Yeah,
So
look at
it's a good
everything.
job, and it's helped because now as an agent, I understand all that, and I know how it goes. I know how the game is played. I know how campuses want you to interact. So that's helpful.
Yeah, it's really important. Yeah, definitely in your position is it's important to kind of have that background in that compliance side where you're understanding everything, and especially having worked at NCAA for a little bit, you get that feel, and then working at other schools as well, you get that you get that background in a university like compliant and manual guide and making sure you're following all the rules and stuff. But kind of go into law school and how that helped you. You went to the University of Florida Law.
Sure did.
Yeah, go into that and see and tell us why that was important for you.
Yeah, it was great. It was hard, but it was great. I think going into law school, I thought that it was like, okay, you go in and you like go into these deep dives about all these different types of law, and then you come out and you're like, I know the law. That's not how it goes. Like you go in and you get a lot of exposure, but I discovered that the things that were the most valuable were like the skills that you get trained on, and the competencies that you practice, and then the relationships that you build, right? Because even though you like study and go to different courses and things, like there's still the bar to study for, and you still don't know how to be an attorney, and so that's why you get a job or you get like an internship, or you be a clerk for a judge or whatever, right? Like that's how you discover how to be an attorney, and they train you, and it takes time even after you graduate. But what you do get is like skills of like how to public speak, or how to negotiate, or how to you dive in and comprehend complex things, right? Like those are the skills that you do every single day. And then you're also talking to a lot of people, you're talking to a lot of professionals, you're talking to a lot of colleagues that have different perspectives and diversities. So that's what I found was the most important thing coming out of it. Anyone could go and Google court cases and kind of do all those type of things, but the skills and the relationships, those are key.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, getting that higher level of education is always important. For going into like for someone going into wanting to do an NIL marketing, or someone that's just looking to get in on the NIL side, would law school be a must or an obligation?
No, I believe it would help a lot, because you're dealing with complicated policies or bylaws or contracts, right? There's different terms and things that are a lot easier to comprehend if you've had them over and over and over again. There's different state laws and school policies and things that are easier to just kind of, it's a lot easier to navigate if you've had that exposure, right? But you don't have to, right? There's a lot of agents, there's a lot of you know good, smart, competent people who can still go out and get deals, and still do all the terms and all those type of things. So it's not a have to, but it definitely helps me, and I think it's really helped to make things easier. If I didn't have that background, it would be a steeper learning curve, but it's definitely not.
All right, so pretend that I'm a student athlete looking to get in on a NIL, or it's an agent for them. Pretend I'm an athlete looking for an NIL agent. What's your pitch? What's your go-to lines, or what does that look like?
Wow, that's great. Honestly, just like I'm just going to be very transparent, right? Like I have a background in advertising, I have a background in compliance, I have a background in law, and that's what NIL is. Like you talk about how to do branding. You talk about terms and contracts. There's negotiation involved. It's about relationships. I know how to build those. I do that every day. So that's what I would offer to you. If you want to talk to my athletes that I currently have, that's fine, and they'll tell you that I am on the grind and trying to get them deals and trying to help, right? And then if you go on LinkedIn, it talks about how I mean, I try to post every day as far as like advice, or how to navigate the sports industry. So I don't try to be anything I'm not. I'm just a guy that has a good background, is a good, a good actor, and so I'm here to help.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I noticed that you're pretty active on LinkedIn. I think that's important for someone like you to see if a student athlete is looking you up, or wanting to get that advice that you share almost every day. I think that's super important that you are doing that, and super cool as well.
Yeah, no, it's great, and it's probably my favorite platform. And a lot of athletes actually don't do a lot on there, and I think that that's a mistake, because there's a lot of opportunity there. Obviously, like TikTok and Instagram are important, right? And that kind of gets the headlines, but LinkedIn, that's where all the business owners are, right? So if you want to get in touch with a brand, yes, that's possible to do through Instagram in kind of a visual or a DM type of way. But if you start to do content and posting also on LinkedIn, and if you engage with that area, like there's a lot of folks there who are hiring and trying to find talent and trying to get deals done also. So it's a really big opportunity there that there's still not a lot of athletes on there. So I try to encourage my clients to go there, and I think it's a great platform.
Yeah, at least personally, I see a lot of jobs that say like sports student athlete background recommended or sports minded, and I think that's important for student athletes that are looking to find a job maybe after their career in sports and or their career in playing. But what's the competition look like for like NIL and marketing agencies? Is there a lot of competition? I'm not too like honed in on this area, but is there a lot of competition with your agency? Is it kind of just a free for all right now? What's that look like?
Yes, I guess by definition that there's always competition, right? Because you're going after the same athletes, but there's a lot of athletes out there, right? There's large agencies that have done this for a longer time, and they have a larger staff, and that's kind of what they do is more about quantity and quality, right? There's smaller, more boutique firms like myself that are all about like getting high quality candidates, but not necessarily quantity, right? So there's different groups out there, right? Yes, all of us are going after athletes, but there's different tastes, there's different skill sets, there's different levels of athlete that are going to go to different agents and different agencies. So um, there is competition, but I've never felt like it's like we're biting each other to get to a client, or we're discussing and we're like you know talking about this agent who's bad or anything like that. No, it's like it's actually the opposite. I discovered that my colleagues are very helpful, and if they can't help a potential client, then they'll hand it off to me or vice versa. And they're very open to like giving thoughts and advice on like how to do things, or to share templates of like, so there's a lot of like helping that's going on. I think all the good actors kind of try to help each other. So no, that's great.
Yeah, that's good to hear because when there's kind of a new landscape of like a job industry like this, you just hear of competition. You hear of like people going for people's throats, and you see people just trying to like cut corners to get the next star up and coming negotiation or whatever the deal is. But it's good to hear that there's friendly banter and people are actually helping others out instead.
Yeah, no, it's great, and it's obviously there are bad actors out there, right? There are those who do cut corners, or who don't register, or whatever. Those who are trying to like steal clients, like those do exist, but thankfully the ones that I am talking to, the ones I um, engage with, all of them are good.
Obviously, with your compliance background and stuff like that, how do you abide by your own rules and making sure that you're on top of each contract and making sure you're helping each student athlete? And then how are you on top of brands and then making sure that they're on top of their game for your student athletes?
Yeah, so basically I try to stay organized, right? That's always a challenge as a one man show, right? Like there's stuff that gets hairy at times, but I'm pretty organized. Right? I've got some good systems in place. I talked about my partner out to win. They have a good software that helps to stay organized, right? So I think it's all about just staying organized, setting reminders on your calendar, right? Having all the agreements and the things that are going to be done. Just have those all on their due dates and everything, and then I try to talk to my clients, not daily necessarily, but like every couple of days, and just even if I'm just checking in and saying, hey, how's it going? How'd that thing go? Hey, I heard back from this person, whatever. So just just being human, I think, right, talking to brands, talking to your client, and just saying, hey, checking in, checking back. I think it's just having that habit, I think, is half of the.
Yeah, I think relationships are key, and it's cool that you check in a lot of the times and almost daily. And yeah, I think that's super important as well. Where do you see JP Sports going down the line in maybe a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? What's your goals and ambitions?
Yeah, the first year or two, right, we're just trying to make sure that everything is kind of done, properly, right? So have a very solid foundation, make sure that the brand is doing what we want the brand, to do. That we're known for the right things, that I'm doing the right things, that I'm staying, compliant and up to date and educated and cutting edge, and over delivering for my clients, right? Um, and we're having a baby here.
Congrats.
My wife and I, thank you. So that's gonna kind of be challenging also to like scale and everything. Right? So just trying to take our time and be very methodical about just doing things the right way, not trying to expand too quickly, but doing it intentionally. And then after that, like I have big dreams about like having different types of divisions of JP Sports, right? So not just the athlete representation, but like if it's real estate or whatever it is, right? Like different divisions. Obviously, that's down the road. We got to establish things and kind of get this going first. But probably in a couple years we'll add a partner and kind of try to expand. But for right now, it's about getting a good group of ideal clients and adding value to them, day in and day out, and then saying, okay, the brand is established, and then let's go from there.
Yeah, and I think maybe a good idea is to maybe get some remote interns. As someone that just came from college and kind of looking at this new landscape of NIL and stuff, I think a great opportunity would be to maybe get some interns in for you, and people would love to work for an NIL agency like this, and it would just be good experience and good knowledge to have for someone maybe in law school or kind of getting out of college, to see firsthand and work firsthand within the agency like yours.
Yeah, no, I do have a couple of those actually that are doing some good intern stuff, and so they're helpful. Obviously, I wish I could employ them.
Yeah.
That's not the stage that we're currently at, but they're doing great stuff on the back end and just trying to kind of like, help on some projects and things. So that's that is true, and that is helpful. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for hopping on. I appreciate it. I enjoyed talking about your background, and then on this NIL agency side is definitely new and innovative, and I appreciate you hopping on and taking the time for me, and probably a busy schedule that you have. But I'm excited to see where this goes, and I'll for sure be following along and passing on your agency to people maybe at KU when I get back
there you go,
there.
there you go. Yeah, no, it was a pleasure to join you. Thank you for having me, and let's stay in touch. That sounds great to me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see the growth of your agency. And yeah, thank you so much for hopping on. I appreciate it.
Yep, anytime. You got it.
Thank you.